Are you a tradie who's running a small business and you've got some people working for you, or you're looking to hire some people? This is one of the books that's helped me grow from the young 20-year-old I was into the businessman I am today. Let's talk about it. For those of you who don't know, I'm Josh, a builder here in New Zealand. I run a building company and have a bunch of staff and contractors. When you add everyone up, there's quite a large team, and whether they're contractors or staff, it's still a person dealing with a person. And this book here is all about the art of managing people. The premise of the book is 1 minute, and whether you're telling someone off or whether you're patting them on the back and whether you're setting them a goal, it should take 1 minute tops. So the book talks about 3 secrets: 1 minute goals, 1 minute praisings, and 1 minute redirects. So let's break those down. The first secret, 1 minute goals, is all about how to successfully give your staff member or your team a task. Now this sounds like elementary, like, hey, I want you to do that thing over there. But what you've got to remember is that when you're communicating with that person, there's 4 parts to play. There's a sender and there's a receiver. There's a message, the words I'm giving you, and then there's feedback. You've got to understand all 4 parts of that communication chain, and you've got to understand how to clearly set someone up. Have you ever been given a task and you thought it was one thing and your boss thought it was another, and you go off on the wrong track? Have you ever done this thing? You know, it's so easy to do, where you think as the boss you've given real clear instructions, and then the worker has felt like they've received real clear instructions, and then both people go off, and then the boss comes back and he's like, whoa, what have you been up to? And then you're like, I just did what you said. And so 1 minute goals is all about how to plan and set goals together, and how to then review a goal as well. One of the most important things is like, hey, this is what I'd like you to achieve. Is that achievable? Hey, how did you get on with that goal we set? And the feedback loop in there. It finishes here by saying, encourage people to take a minute to look at what they're doing and see if their behavior matches up with their goals. Hey, is what you're doing matching up with what you said you're going to do? Because you told me that this is achievable. You told me that you believe that you can achieve it. Is this behavior that you're doing in line with what you want to do? And then number 5, if it doesn't, encouraging them to get back on track, to rethink what can you do. And this happens so many times. We all set off and we've all got the best intentions, and we get distracted, or we end up down rabbit holes, or we, for whatever reason, we get off track. And so it's encouraging your staff member or your team to rethink what they're doing so that they can realize the goal sooner. That's the first part of the book, 1 minute goals. And then we move into the second secret, 1 minute praisings. And so a 1 minute praising is essentially like a pat on the back. Catching someone doing something good and taking 1 minute to say, hey, that thing you did there, it's awesome, that looks great, thanks so much, I love that video, that report is amazing, hey, thanks for doing that. Taking the time to let someone know that you've noticed the good things they've done. When you're in the heat of the moment and you're like, go, 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 and you're problem solving, one of the first things that slips by, often unintentionally, is our ability to stop and say, hey, good job. And it's even got here how to do it in a minute. In the first half of the minute, praise people as soon as possible. Let them know what they did right and be specific. This is not just a hack for management, this is a hack for parenting as well. Tell people how you feel good about what they've done and how it helps you or the organization. Pause for a moment, and if you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe. But allow the person you're talking to feel the words, to soak in the words. And then in the second half of that minute, encourage them to do more of the same. Make it clear that you have confidence in them to keep doing this type of work. Again, it sounds so basic and so simple, right? Who doesn't love a pat on the back? Who doesn't love their boss saying, hey, you, good work? Think about some of the organizations you've worked in, and is that commonplace? Does that happen all the time? Or is it more likely that the boss and the manager spends their time focusing on what's not going right rather than what is going right? So the second secret from the 1 minute manager is to focus on what's going right. Use this formula here on page 43 to give a 1 minute praising. Honestly, if that's the one thing you take away from the book, it would be that. And then the third secret is 1 minute redirects, and this is kind of like getting someone back on track. So you've set the goal, you've caught them doing what's right, and you've praised them. now they've kind of wandered off track. They've done the wrong thing. The work they're producing is not quite aligning with what you need or what you expected or what it should be. First and foremost, you've got to make sure that the expectations are clear, the goal was clear, they were set up for success. Then, number one, redirect people as soon as possible. Confirm the facts, review the mistake together, be specific. Hey, I said put the dwangs at 600 centers, you've gone and put them at 800 centers, what's up? Express how you feel about the mistake and its impact on the results. We're not going to be able to do the weatherboard with the dwangs at 800 centers, and I've also feel frustrated that I took the time this morning to explain that and you've now spent the whole morning going off in the wrong direction. Pause for a moment, again, allow the person you're talking to a chance to soak in what you're saying. You're not telling them that they're the worst human being on the planet. Make sure you're being specific. Hey, I don't have any problems with you as a person, but I do have a problem with this one task I gave you this morning and the results of that one task. Now, every other thing about you is fine. We're not talking about that, we're talking about this one specific thing. And this is how I feel about that one specific thing. And make sure that you talk about how it impacts you and then let that rest. The second half of the minute, remember to let them know that they are better than their mistake. You know, the reason they're here, the reason they're on your team is because you've come to expect better results from them. You have seen them produce better work. You know that they've got it in them. So you're holding them to account to a higher standard. Remind them that you have the confidence and trust in them. That's the whole reason you gave them the task in the first place. Let's face it, if you didn't believe they could do it, you wouldn't give it to them. You would find a workaround. You'd do it yourself. You'd give it to someone else. So the whole premise of giving someone a task is because you believe they can do it. And then most important, realize that when a 1 minute redirect's over, it's over. Case closed, move on. I think this is important for both people, for you as the person giving the 1 minute redirect and for the person receiving the 1 minute redirect. You know, think about a time where you've been corrected at work and you're like, oh, am I allowed to move on? Am I in trouble? Like, will the trouble carry on all day, or is that it? Imagine if you created a culture where you consistently set 1 minute goals, you gave 1 minute praisings, and you gave 1 minute redirects. And more importantly, people knew that when you gave a 1 minute redirect, it was in the context of the 1 minute goal and the 1 minute praising. And they also knew that when you gave them a 1 minute redirect, that you weren't questioning their entire existence as a worker. You weren't telling them that everything they've done is shit. You were telling them that this one thing was wrong, but they also had faith in you that you weren't going to hold a grudge, that when you left that conversation, the conversation was over, and that they were given a chance to just get on with it and improve, that they hadn't lost your confidence or trust, that they had a chance to keep maintaining it. Sam's telling me cut the time, it's like, it's supposed to be a book about 1 minute summary. This book is older than me, it's 39 years old, and I first read it 20 years ago as a young 17-year-old manager. It's changed the way I approach business and people, and I believe it can help you in your journey too. A quick note on reading books. I've been reading business and self-help books now for 20 years. It's totally changed the way I approach business. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. If someone else way smarter than me has taken the time to write these words down, then I should take the time to, number one, read it, number two, think about how can I apply these learnings to my situation. I think that's the beauty of books, and I think if you're on your own growth journey, that's why you should be reading books too.